Welcome to Bloom Today. We have a truly addictive show for you. We're going to be talking about having a need to fill a need.
Hi, I'm Paula Wallace, president of Bloom in the Dark, and this is
Ginny Paula, the single-handed Serenity Coach. Welcome to Bloom Today, where we talk about internal and external brokenness and how you can heal,
so that you can use the fertilizer of your past to bloom today. Hey everyone, welcome. Today, obviously, we're talking about I have a need to fill a need. And I've been very needy in my past. What about you, Ginny?
Absolutely. There's always that place that I wanted to fill. I wanted something to satisfy, to make some kind of peace. I couldn't really find it where I wanted to find it, though, in the first place. I searched very worldly places. And that was so much fun, let me tell you. And by so much fun, I mean absolutely terrifying and just torturous. Yeah.
It set you up for some bad stuff, didn't it?
Oh, gosh, yeah. I didn't know where I was looking for my peace, but I thought I would find it surely somewhere with, I don't know, alcohol, cigarettes, men. Why not? Isn't that what we're all trying to use? Isn't that what we're all trying to use?
Well, it's the temptation to go looking for things, and you almost became a raging alcoholic because you were almost
raped.
Oh,
yeah, that was the first part of that story. The need for peace and the need to calm myself, get back to some kind of stability internally in how I was feeling. Actually, what I didn't recognize at the time, but there was a huge shift internally for me after I experienced an attempted rape. And I was experienced a lot of panic attacks afterwards, and I thought I was overreacting. I thought it was just me. I thought I was the problem, even after all of that. And, because nothing really happened. So, of course, nothing really happened. Mm-hmm. So I went looking for something, anything, and along the way became almost an alcoholic, except I really became an alcoholic. So,
but not stage 4 or the most extreme homeless under the bridge version.
Right. Well, that's what I told myself. I can't be an alcoholic because I don't live under a bridge. So clearly, I'm just fine. I've got a great job. I'm able to have relationships. I'm holding everything together. And so therefore, I can't really be an alcoholic. And what I learned when I went to DUI school after getting a DUI is that I was in the 3rd stage of alcoholism. So my brain chemistry hadn't really changed, but yet I was relying on alcohol to numb out the pain. And it had become not just something that I did occasionally, but it was a culture for me. And it was just my attempt to numb all of that pain and that fear that I had experienced from many things in my life, but most specifically was that traumatic event that happened.
Right. So I was actually raped. I had no claim to the almost, but the idea that it's still my problem, it's still my fault, and there were the other kinds of abuse that had happened starting when I was 2 and all of that we've talked about before. But I had a good claim because I chose acceptable addictions.
Acceptable
addictions. That meant that
your addictions were better than my addictions?
Yes, my addictions were way better than your addictions. It's so funny because we do quantify, like a workaholic is an acceptable addiction because they're a good provider. They're making good money. They work hard.
Right.
But it can still destroy their families.
Absolutely.
You look at somebody, in my case, I went from having a reading addiction where anything I had to do other than reading, escape, because obviously that was a great escape, living in a different world through books, because we didn't have television, so, had to be books. And I literally had a book with me all the time. So if I had 2 minutes waiting for something, I was reading. If I didn't have a book somewhere, I went into a panic because that meant I was going to have to be me stuck with my own thoughts. for this time frame in my thoughts had all this torment and pain and ugliness in it. And so whether it was a shopping addiction or a food addiction, all these different stages of addictions that weren't those horrible ones like alcohol and drugs. I had the proper acceptable addictions.
Proper addictions. Wow, what
proper
an oxymoron.
addictions. But that's how we lie to ourselves and rationalize. But when I got angry and lashed out at somebody because they interrupted me while I was reading.
Oh, how dare you.
But it was an addictive response to a situation. And it's so funny when you take the good or bad or appropriate or wrong or glorified addictions like somebody who cleans all the time, well, look, their house is spotless. But if it's an addiction that actually controls them and interferes with family and relationships and all the ways that addictions pan out, it doesn't matter how, quote unquote, proper or good or bad the addiction is. Yeah. The destruction to our families, our relationships, our world, ourselves is still
real.
There.
Still very real. And it doesn't start as an addiction. It doesn't just one day go from one thing to the next thing. It's a slow process. And we think, oh, this'll just get me through the next 5 minutes, 10 minutes, the next night, whatever that is, until I can go shopping again, whatever that looks like. And then but then over time, it's still not enough. It's still not enough, and it's still not enough, and it's still not enough. Because at the end of the day, the only thing that's going to be enough for us is God, is the relationship that we have with Him to fill that place of brokenness inside of us.
So you're saying that everyone can actually turn to God instead of to addictions, because addictions seem to meet certain needs temporarily, but God has the only true fix for those same needs. And a lot of times we are needing things that much due to loss or brokenness or abuse or trauma or difficult circumstances.
Well, for me, it was I needed to numb the pain. I needed to dull the pain. This place where I'm at is unacceptable. It's too much. I can't live here consistently. And I know that alcohol has been used as a great way to numb out from my family and my friends and all of the college students that I knew. So maybe that's a great way to go ahead and numb that out. And from an addiction side of things, addiction mindset, really, it was only temporary. That's why I needed to keep going back for more, keep going back for more, keep going back for more. It's only temporary. But if I'm turning to God, now when I stopped drinking, I needed to feel all of those emotions again and actually process through them. And that was really difficult. And it didn't heal overnight. I wasn't fully put back together and didn't have to feel those emotions anymore overnight. But through that process, God did heal me, and that was much more permanent.
So like it says in John 2:16, that for everything in the world, the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life comes not from the Father, but from the world. And when we go to the world to meet that need, it is such a short, small, temporary fix.
Very temporary.
But where God's answer may take a while, because it takes renewing your mind, it takes healing, it takes processing stuff. But then it becomes a long-term fix, long-term healing. It actually changes our lives, not just for a second or two, but it can change our lives on a long-term, eternal
level
basis.
Absolutely.
So I did it to feel safe and in control.
The reading and the shopping and That's a lot in a little bit of time, yeah.
Right, but I was controlling what I put in my mouth. And if I was rejected super, super skinny, then let's just see what happens when I do the opposite. And there was comfort in stuffing and putting something in my mouth and in filling the internal void physically, whether or not I knew how to fill that void emotionally, which is what I really needed, was help with that. But I learned I was really powerless when I started cramming food I didn't like. I didn't even like the taste of it. And I couldn't stop myself from shoving my mouthful anyway. My stomach would hurt. I would still.
So where you felt in control, all of a sudden you're way out of control.
Yeah, it doesn't work too well.
That same thing that you used to stay in control is now gotten completely out of control, which of course only puts you in that spiral even further, right?
Right, but God's the only one in control.
Right. It's this illusion of safety that the world gives us, that these substances or these addictions give to us. But then with God, we know that, well, it's not necessarily that we're suddenly going to be in control when we believe in the Lord. More so, we have this rest in knowing that He's in control, and that ultimately we know where we're going. Ultimately, we know that we will be with Him forever in heaven, and we will never have to live without Him. But we do have to live with the idea that here on earth, for this short amount of time while we are here, we are pretty much powerless, but we just have to be resting in His hands. He's still got us here, even though the chaos seems to be raging around us.
Right, and then there's the whole thing about escaping from circumstances. So y'all, the current temptation for that is Netflix.
Oh, yes, absolutely. I would love to just go ahead and escape from
binge watch something. It's funny because that's even a thing now. Like binging on Netflix is an acceptable addiction in culture and society right now. But it's the same thing where it's temporary, it's an illusion, and the minute the series ends or the show ends or the movie ends, you're sitting there having to face the pain and the reality of your life and all the stuff that comes from it. And it's such a misguided thing anytime we take anything to help us escape, because at the end of it, it's done nothing but waste time.
Exactly. And time we could have been spending processing and healing and bringing this to God and building a relationship with Him and understanding and resting that there is peace with Him in the middle of the storm that we're going through. We could have spent that time healing, but rather we decided I know I have spent a lot of time saying, hey, Netflix sounds really great. I've had a hard day. Let me just, and it can be that same kind of cycle again of trying to escape.
Do we have a coaching tool?
We absolutely do. I do want to share, though, Ecclesiastes 7:5. It is better to heed the rebuke of a wise person than listen to the song of fools. And that specifically, to me, is the Netflix, the books, the escape is the song of fools. It's that temptation to just ease into something, that seduction that is there, but it's never going to give us what we actually need. So if you want to dig into this a little bit more, like Paula mentioned, we do have a coaching tool, and that's just a couple pages of a worksheet where we outline the lesson that we have gone over. We give you some scriptures to deal with this. You'll answer some questions to find out how you can apply this to your life, what this really looks like, and then some exercises to help you walk out of where you are to where you want to be.
And we have a song?
We absolutely have a song, and this is something that I think is really speaks to the idea of faith and how God can come in no matter where we are in that addiction cycle, or no matter where we are anywhere in our life. It doesn't have to be necessarily in the midst of addiction, but just the healing power and the turnaround power that God has. Would you like to read that for us?
Oh, please, please, please. Cutlass has the song "What Faith Can Do," and yeah, let me just read it. Everybody falls sometimes. Got to find the strength to rise from the ashes and make a new beginning. Anyone can feel the ache. You think it's more than you can take, but you are stronger. Stronger than you know. Don't give up now. The sun will soon be shining. You got to face the clouds to find that silver lining. I've seen dreams that move mountains. Hope that doesn't ever end. Even when the sky is falling, I've seen miracles just happen. Silent prayers get answered. Broken hearts become brand new. That's what faith can do and has done. It doesn't matter what you've heard. Impossible is not a word. It's just a reason for someone not to try.
Love it.
Everyone scared to death when they decide to take that step out of the water. But it'll be all right. Life is so much more than what your eyes are seeing. You will find your way if you keep believing. I've seen dreams that move mountains, hope that doesn't ever end.